Hello and welcome to another glorious read. I am your host, Aspen M. Sage. Let's get into it. First off, as always, sorry about the delay. Last week I was really sick, and unfortunately I wasn't able to move from my bed. Like, I was that sick. And then, of course, after I was getting sick, the whole family got sick, so I had to take care of them as well. But in the process of all this, I at least got to read and read a lot, and I was happy about that. So, yeah, I'm better now, as you can tell. My voice is cheery. I'm happy. Let's get into it, and we'll start with actually this week we have two book reviews since I skipped on you guys last week being sick. I'm going to make sure that you guys get one this week, or at least more than one. So last time I was telling you that I was reading this book about a dragon shifter book. So the first one is Kiss of Smoke, and we have three main characters in this book because it is a male, female genre. This book does have a lot of different contact. So we have our first male character, Alec. We have Lochlan and Chole. So the book starts off fairly innocent. So I thought, at least. It basically turned into a very spicy scene very quickly. But I will say I love the book series. There's 5 in right now. I'm on the 3rd, but right now I'm going to talk about the 1st and 2nd. So Alec is more your very funny guy. He's very like lovable. He's that cheery one that you just can't help but like. Lachlan's more of your I don't want to call him morally gray, but he's the grumpy guy, like the guy that you're not so sure about, the one that's like very cranky. And then you have Chole, who's a very innocent human being. Um, she is the executive assistant to Lochlan and Alec. Um, so she is on a business trip with them, or going to one to Scotland. Both of these men are Scottish, so she is going with them for 2 weeks over there. And during this whole thing, um, she happens to keep thinking about a thing that she saw with them. She's never seen them with a woman, and all the women woon over them in the office. And she's pretty sure that they are intimate together. She's seen it. So now she fantasizes about it. And she has no idea that these guys can actually think or see what. So while she's sitting there in the airport with these men, they're asking her if she's excited about her wedding coming up. Like, it's 5 weeks away, and like they're like, well, we're going on a 2-week business trip. Are you sure you want to go, because you got a lot of wedding planning to do and all that stuff? She goes, yeah, it's fine. Like, her fiance is telling her to go, and basically she keeps bouncing back to fantasizing about these men. And she's just like, I can't be doing this about my bosses. It's not right. And to distract herself, she turns her head and looks in a different direction. And who does she see locking lips with another woman? Is his or her fiance. And she's like, no, it can't be. And she ends up getting up and walking over to him and calls out his name. He turns around, and she automatically knows who the woman is. And she's like, how dare you? Like, you knew I was going on this business trip. And then it turned into a whole thing. She's like, how long has this been going on? And she's very calm. She's trying not to pull any like attention towards her. And then she basically stops for a second, and she's just like processing. As he says, we've been doing it for a year. He thinks that she's boring, and basically the whole wedding fiasco is off. She jumps at him, and basically her bosses catches her, says basically like, you're an idiot kind of thing. They walk her away, calm her down. They're on the plane. They're like, we can go now. And she's like, yeah, let's get out of here. She falls asleep, and then she wakes up, and she's like, I'm so sorry for crying on you. I'm sorry for how I acted. This is embarrassing. She goes, I guess the wedding's off now. I don't have to worry about wedding planning, and I'll have to cancel everything when I get back. Um, and her boss, Alec, is like, don't worry, hun, it's okay. He's very sweet and smoothing to her. And then he basically goes in for a kiss with her. And as she's kissing, So Lochlan comes in and he like stares at her and she's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to kiss your lover, blah blah blah. And like she's like so embarrassed that she's like she's gonna get fired and all this stuff. And he's like, whoa whoa whoa. She's like, Alex, like, I kissed you, not the other way around. And she's like, are you sure? And then she's like, aren't you guys like together, like together? And he's like, um believe the human term that you use is bisexual. And she's like, say what? And like, yeah, we're bisexual. And then she's like, they're like, we're also polygamous. And she has no idea what they're talking about. So it gets spicy very quickly. On their way to Scotland, she has no idea who these men are, basically, other than their bosses. She has the time of her life that she knows of, and then she ends up in Scotland, and back and forth, the men are talking that Chole is their mate, and they're like, no, or at least Lochlan's like, I can't have a human mate, and Alex is like, you know, it's true, that's how it is, and Lochlan's like, I'm not so sure about it. And of course, Chole wakes up. She thinks this is all a dream, and then it comes to like a thing that happens. She's like learning their history a little bit, or in this castle in modern day. She doesn't feel good and all this stuff. And she's pretty sure that everything that happened on the plane was a dream. She didn't know that Alec used a power that he had gained from his mother. So basically, in these books, a little side trip here, is that the female dragons don't exist. They all died out. The only ones that remain are male dragons, and in their mating, it's always one female, two males, and it's a trio, triangle, love triangle, whatever you want to call it. And so there's no females, and they have to find other females from firstborn races. So you got your fae, your vampire, your werewolves, your witches, people like that, the demon kind, and of course the human mortals. And so these men have to find their trusted female mate. Alec's mother is actually Fae, and Lochlan's mother is actually a werewolf. So he's pulled by the moon. And of course, Chole being human. Well, things go on. Alec and is really trying to win her over. She's really trying to get her to like, hey, you want to be with us. And Lochlan's like, don't force it. Please, just don't. During an interment moment between Lochlan and Alec, Lochlan ends up going shadowing because dragons can shadow, but they lose their clothes and everything. And Chole sees it, and then she finds out they're dragons, and she's really panicking about it. Like, she's like, this doesn't happen to anybody else. And they're like, you're our mate. And they treat her as such. And they're like, so yeah, in this situation, if you want to be with our mate, you have to take both of us at the same time. Like I said, this book gets spicy. There's a lot and lots of spice in it, whether it's between the two male characters, the male and the female characters, or all three at the same time. So it definitely goes spicy. So there's also a thing where during an intermittent moment, Chole gets really sick. She's starting to bleed, and they don't know what's going on. They're panicking, and it comes to find out that she had a miscarriage. Apparently, it was from her ex, but it was not a viable pregnancy. So they're like, it could be one of theirs, she kept thinking, but they're like, unless we fully mate and do the mate bond, it doesn't work that way. We can't get you pregnant. So, of course, during this time, Lochlan was the last one to touch her, and he thinks it's his fault, and he's like, I can't touch her for a while. Like, he just feels complete guilt. She hears this, and of course, her mind goes, they just want me because I'm a fertile female, basically. Like, they don't actually love me. They don't want me. She takes off. She's trying to go back home. Of course, she forgot her passport. And then all of a sudden, two officers come to her, and they're like, yeah, well, we're going to take you home. Don't worry about it. We're going to take you to the embassy for the night until your passport comes in. And as soon as she gets in the car, she just starts feeling a little off. She's like realizing they're not going towards the city. They're going out of the city. Come to find out that these two people that abducted her were vampires, and basically they want to drain her blood because she is a special type of human. that has magical abilities. She's able to basically, I think it was, take things that she's touched and gain their power. So because she touched Lochlan and Alec, she gets their dragon ability. They come to save her. They find out that she's a very powerful human being, that she's basically a magical witch kind of person. So they're like, Lochlan's very happy. He's like, I knew that she was special. There's a lot of sentimental things. There's also a lot of family issues, especially for Chole. Like when she's in Scotland, her mother calls and basically says, "How dare you do that to your ex? Like you get home right now." And she frowns right about Alec and Lochlan's love life and stuff like that. And she's like, "You need to get home or I disown you now." And she's like, "Well, I don't know what to do." And they're like, "Well, whatever you decide, we'll let you go." Dragons, of course, hoard. They don't want to let her go. They will lock her in the tower. They have locked her in the tower in this book. Um, and of course, they also do give her a dragon ride. She enjoys that immensely. So this book is really good. At the end of the book, they do mate. I love this book. I give it a 5-star. Spice level, I will actually give this a 4.7. It wasn't enough to make me blush, but there was so much spice and it was so well written, and there was a lot more emotions into it. It wasn't just like this happened, this happened, this happened. It was a lot more into it. Like it was a lot more I know I'm saying a lot more. It was more emotional based, and actually you could feel how the characters felt. At least in my opinion. Other people might read it differently. But like I said, this is a male female book. So I definitely gave it a 5 stars. I liked it. I have to say Lochlan's probably my favorite though, because he's such that grumpy, morally gray character. And he's just very nice. And then the next book is actually The Dark Fire's Kiss. So this book is also a male female storyline. Again, it's about dragons, but this one's a little bit different. So instead of the dragons fighting the female, this one's actually the female finds the dragons. We have Halina, who is a vampire or a Dhampire. She's actually human immortal mix. She's in her own court. She's very abused by everybody because she's not a true vampire. And something happens where her father messed around with another prince's wife, and then he gets poisoned. Her brother, who's his son, and his brother is also like trying to, or her uncle is trying to save the father, and then it turns into they send Halina to the dragons. They're like, we need dragon tears. So dragon tears in these books have special healing ability. You hear about it in the first book, but this one is very about it. So they dropped him off, or dropped her off. They channeled, as a aka they like materialize somewhere else, to outside of a castle in Scotland. And in this castle, she's like, I don't want. She's heard horrible stories how dragons treat females, how they capture people, how they do this stuff, how they don't care. They'll basically take anything that has legs and a skirt. Um, as she's walking and she's scared and alone, she gets jumped by Fergus. Fergus is also like kind of like Alec. He's very liked. He's very charming. He's very lovable. And he calls her a leech because that's how they see about vampires. And all the other races, firstborn races, they don't want dragons. They want the dragons to be exist, because the only way you can kill a dragon is basically you kill their female mate. The males will follow. So Fergus finds out that she's her mate, and he like ties her up to the bed, and she's like panicking, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna be ravished," and all that stuff. And he calls on Bram. Bram is a lot like Lochlan in the first book. He's very grumpy, very soldier because of how he's raised. Um, he is also like Lochlan, and actually Fergus too. They both had werewolf mothers, and their job, or telling Halina that she is their mate, um, she doesn't believe it at all. She's like, no, don't, you don't want me, blah, blah, blah. I just need the dragon tears to save my father so that, the blood is saved. Or the blood prince, as they call him, the person that runs the vampire colony clan, whatever you want to call it. So Bram's like, oh, it is our actual mate, like, holy crap. And Fergus is like, yeah. And Fergus is trying to get Halina to, you know, become more open and trust them and stuff like that. And like, it comes to like Bram teaching her how to fight. This book actually has a lot more Bram Fergus relationship because Bram was actually killed. Well, his parents were killed, and he had a sister who did not. She was the first female dragonborn who didn't survive. So they were twins, and Bram was actually the only one who sated the Crazy King. You hear about the Crazy King in the first book, um, but Bram is the only one who's been able to, you know, be that kid that made the king calm. So he had a very hard life. Fergus, on the other hand, was more free. So Fergus is more the gentle lover. He basically makes sure that he's calm. Um, After a while, that Helena actually feeds off Fergus, and like she likes how he tastes. She's not sick by it because she's a vampire, she's not able to drink blood correctly. It makes her sick, but she's like she needs it more often. But when she drinks off Fergus, she's like, wow, it's really good. I'm not getting sick. It's awesome. But it's also very arousing for him and like her at the same time. And yeah, it turns into a really bad like situation where she leaves him high and dry. And he's like, oh, so of course it's Bram to the rescue. And then Fergus is like, Bram, maybe you should talk to her a little bit and like help her out and offer her training and stuff. And he does, and he trains Helena. And then like after a while, he's like, so you fed off Fergus, do you want to feed off me kind of thing? And she's like, sure. Turns into a really bad wham bam thing. And like they got really spicy really quick. Of course, before that happens, Fergus shows up and he's like, me too, me too. I want to join. They're like, Bram looks at like Helena and she's like, are you sure you want him to join? Like, they want to make her feel comfortable, not feel like a prisoner, even though they won't let her leave the castle. And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So, again, a really spicy book on that. And it comes to the thing where they find out the tears have made it to the vampire kingdom, but yet their messenger hasn't returned. And then Helena got kidnapped back by the vampires, and her brother's there, and her uncle's there, but her father's not. And she's like, oh great. So her father is dead, and they thought maybe the tears didn't work. She's thinking, well, she thinks pretty much that her uncle and her brother killed her father. So they're like, oh, we're trying to basically trick the ring who chooses the blood prince, thinking that it's gonna be him. And then she starts putting things into place that they didn't try to save the father, and that he's not able to control the ring for the blood prince, and so he's not able to rule. And the rule is, I guess, this ring chooses the blood prince or princess or queen, king, whoever, emperor, to rule these people, and you're not allowed to harm them. So she's starting to realize that her brother's acting different. Instead of changeling to her and killing her instantly, he's not really acting right. Of course, Bram and Fergus show up. They're very protective of her, obviously, being a dragon toy. She finds out that basically her father's ring, being a Dhampire, she's actually chosen to be the next blood princess. Um, and of course, Bram and Fergus, she looks at them and they take care of the uncle by throwing him in the sun. He could in flames. And then, she looks at her brother and says, I trusted you, and even though you weren't always the kindest to me. And she looks at her two lovers and says, yep, toss him out the window. And he's like, I'm actually, proud of you. You learned to fight. And she's like, oh, heartbroken. She's like, had second thoughts. And then she's like, nope, send him away. So she got a twist of fate, because where she was abused and burnt and like criticized and everything, from being a vampire, Dhampire, being a human female and vampire male, she became the princess. And now everybody's like, oh, we have to treat her right. And of course, she has her dragons there to help out with that situation. So they have to respect the dragons just as much as her. Another 5 book. I like it. Definitely still the 4.7 for the spice level. And I would definitely say Bram's my favorite. It was hard because Fergus was right there too, but Bram, I love the grumpy characters. Even when I'm writing my book, my characters have a mild grumpy. There's one character I absolutely love. He's in a way different book line. His name is Echo, and he's just really grumpy all the time. Um, he's just one of those guys is like, I don't care. And of course, it doesn't help that his celestial that he's with likes to push his buttons and calls him pretty pony and stuff. So she likes to push him, and he's just like, I don't know why I'm stuck with you. Anyway, so yeah, I love these books. I'm starting on the 3rd book, and the 3rd book's supposed to be about the crazy king and his mate and them finding their mate. So I'm very excited about how this one's go. I just started it. But that is all for today, guys. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. Go do something adventurous, and I will catch you on the next show. And hopefully I don't fall sick again. I really don't. Or whatever else, because we've had crazy weather here too, like snow, ice, rain, snow, ice, rain. It's piling up quickly, but that's how winter is. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. Go do something nice, have something delicious, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye bye.